We go to theme parks to feel alive, to scream without fear, to chase a thrill that ends in laughter. There's comfort in the click of a harness and in the hiss of hydraulics. We take comfort in the illusion that risk has been engineered out of the experience. Because it's all supposed to be safe, regulated, controlled, imagined danger, not real. But sometimes that illusion breaks, and when it does, the consequences are anything but make-believe. Sometimes the ride doesn't stop, the brakes fail, the bolts shear, the safety bar clicks, but not enough. And a moment meant for fun becomes something else entirely. Something that leaves behind sirens, silence, and stories people try to forget. This isn't about freak accidents. It's about overlooked warnings, rushed maintenance, and choices made in the name of profit or pride. More importantly, it's about the people who paid for those choices with broken bones, stolen futures, and lives cut short at the edge of a drop. So today, we pull back the curtain on the thrill industry's darkest days, the moments when the ride went too far and never came back. These are the 10 worst theme park accidents in history. Let's begin. 1. The day the Big Dipper died, 1972, London, UK. There's something different about wooden coasters. They creak when they climb, they rattle as they turn, and buried beneath every scream is a whisper that something could go wrong. At London's Battersea Park Fun Fair, that whisper turned into a roar. It was May 1972. The air was thick with cotton candy and carousel music. Children tugged at sleeves, begging for just one more ride before going home. And for many, that ride was the Big Dipper. Towering, weathered, a classic. The crown jewel of the park. That afternoon, one of its trains began the slow, familiar ascent to the top of the launch hill. Click by click, chain pulling car by car, the riders blissfully unaware of the horror waiting at the peak. But something failed. The lift chain snapped and the anti-rollback system, which is a mechanism designed to keep the train from reversing, simply didn't catch. The train reversed fast, not rolling but plummeting with the weight of metal, momentum, and panic behind it. It slammed into another train sitting in the boarding area, filled with passengers who had no time to react and nowhere to run. By the time the screams quieted, 5 children were dead. 13 more were seriously injured. There were no second chances. The Big Dipper never reopened, and just 2 years later, the Battersea Fun Fair shut down entirely, its legacy tainted, its future erased by a day no one could forget. 2. Space Journey ends in horror, 2010, Shenzhen, China. Some rides try to defy gravity. Space Journey didn't just try. It mimicked the explosive power of a rocket launch, accelerating riders upward at twice the pull of Earth, twisting and shaking them inside sealed high-tech cabins that made the thrill feel like flight. It was a marquee attraction at Eco Venture Valley in Shenzhen, China, a park built to inspire awe, adrenaline, and wonder. But on June 29, 2010, wonder turned to nightmare. It began with a flicker, a stutter, then an outage. Eyewitnesses reported a sudden power failure, followed by a deafening explosion, which was a warning no one had time to process. Then everything dropped. One of the ride's 11 four-person cabins detached mid-motion. It slammed into nearby cabins like a wrecking ball, sending them all crashing 50 feet downward in a tangle of steel, cables, and terror. Passengers were hurled out. They were flung through the air and into the ground below with nothing to break their fall but speed and gravity. 6 people were killed. 10 more were left with critical injuries. And perhaps the most haunting detail? The ride had passed its maintenance inspection just 8 days before. 3. The Pendulum Snaps, 2025, Taif, Saudi Arabia. Rides like the 360 Big Pendulum aren't meant to terrify, but to tease fear. They swing high, spin fast, push the limits of orientation. But the straps are tight, the lights are bright, the ground always comes back. Until it doesn't. It was a warm evening in Taif, a city stretched along Saudi Arabia's western highlands, just east of the Red Sea. At Green Mountain Park, crowds gathered for one last thrill before the day cooled into night. And there it stood, towering, spinning, glowing. The 360 Big Pendulum was a giant wheel at the end of a massive arm, swinging riders in wide, dizzying arcs as it rotated and soared through the sky. Then, without warning, the ride broke in half. There was a snap, followed by a chorus of screams. The massive spinning wheel carrying dozens of riders detached mid-motion, flung loose while suspended at a sharp 90-degree tilt, and hurtled toward the earth. Some onlookers ran, others stood frozen, phones shaking in their hands as they captured what looked impossible. The wheel crashing down, the steel pole recoiling violently, the sound of metal collapsing under its own weight. 23 people were injured, 4 of them critically. One detail, though, bordered on the miraculous. As the wheel fell, it somehow rotated just enough to land relatively flat, softening what could have easily been an unthinkable death toll. Still, the damage was done. The Saudi Red Crescent Authority rushed to the scene. In the days that followed, the governor of Taif ordered the park shut down. An investigation was launched, not just into the pendulum, but into every other ride on site, because once the steel fails, nothing is trusted. 4. Fujin Raijin 2 Disaster, 2007 Expoland, Japan. On May 4, 2007, a sunny holiday turned tragic at Expoland amusement park near Osaka. The Fujin Raijin 2, a stand-up roller coaster, was speeding along at 75 kilometers per hour when disaster struck. One of the cars derailed and smashed into a guardrail with terrifying force. A 19-year-old woman was killed instantly. 21 others were injured, some seriously. The ride had been carrying 24 people. Later investigations revealed a broken axle that had gone unchecked, raising serious questions about inspection standards. The park shut down shortly after, a grim reminder of the cost of overlooked maintenance. 5. Raft flips at Hershey Park, 1987, Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was meant to be a splash of summer fun, a whitewater thrill in the heart of Pennsylvania. But on July 3, 1987, the Canyon River Rapids ride at Hershey Park turned turbulent in the worst way. Families boarded large circular rafts, expecting a safe simulation of a river gone wild, spinning through artificial currents, dodging rocky sprays, bouncing off controlled turbulence. But one raft didn't bounce, it flipped. Without warning, the circular raft rolled over in a chaotic burst of motion. 6 passengers were suddenly underwater, thrown from their seats, trapped in a wave pool designed for excitement, not survival. 4 people suffered minor injuries, battered and bruised by the raft's weight and the water's force. But 2 others were seriously hurt, requiring immediate medical attention. The cause? A mechanical failure in the conveyor belt system, which is the part responsible for pulling rafts safely along the course. It was jammed, and in that moment of sudden pressure and unrelieved flow, the raft was caught in a swirl of tension and turbulence that pushed it past its tipping point. The ride was then shut down for inspection. 6. The Fireball breaks apart, 2017 Ohio State Fair, Ohio. It was opening day at the Ohio State Fair on July 26, 2017. Families lined up under the summer sun, looking for corn dogs, lemonade, and one more adrenaline rush before the lights dimmed. The Fireball was a standout. A massive pendulum ride that swung its passengers 40 feet into the air, spinning them in a circle as the arm rocked back and forth like a metronome made of steel. But when it failed, it shattered. Mid-swing, one of the ride's gondolas broke off. 18-year-old Tyler Gerald was thrown into the air and killed on impact. 7 others were rushed to hospitals with life-threatening injuries. The investigation uncovered the unthinkable: corrosion. A crucial support beam had been slowly degrading from the inside out. The metal unseen beneath paint and structure had weakened over time until it could no longer support the ride's weight and velocity. Tyler Jarrell's death sent shockwaves through the industry. The Fireball was removed, inspections were overhauled, and the fair, once a symbol of carefree joy, was haunted by the memory of a thrill ride that hid its danger behind bolts and lights. 7. The ride that derailed 79 times, 1996 Old Indiana Fun Park, Indiana. The mini Indy train looked harmless, a colorful little locomotive that chugged along a winding track at Old Indiana Fun Park. It was the kind of ride you'd let your child board without a second thought. But on August 11, 1996, it derailed. A 57-year-old grandmother was killed. A 4-year-old boy was left paralyzed. The investigation that followed exposed a trail of warnings no one had heeded. The train had derailed 79 times in the 2 months before the accident. The brakes didn't work, the speedometer didn't function, the operators weren't trained. Even the state inspector who cleared the ride admitted he wasn't qualified to assess it. It wasn't one oversight, it was dozens stacked like dominoes until the last one fell with fatal consequences. This wasn't a tragedy that no one could have predicted, it was one they saw coming, and they ran the ride anyway. 8. The Tsunami Derails, 2016 M&D Scotland's Theme Park, Scotland. It was a Sunday afternoon at M&D's in Strathclyde County Park, Scotland's self-declared theme park of thrills. Children lined up with slushies in hand, parents chatted under the gray clouds, and the Tsunami roller coaster loomed above them all, humming with energy. It was Scotland's only inverted coaster, meaning the track was above the riders' heads with feet dangling, the cars racing forward at speeds topping 64 kilometers per hour. The kind of ride meant to dazzle thrill seekers with the sensation of flight. But then something went wrong, leading to 10 people getting injured. As the coaster rounded a bend, 5 of its gondolas suddenly detached from the rails. Metal screamed as the cars careened off the track, struck the support beams, and plummeted to the ground, crashing directly onto a children's ride below. Witnesses sprinted toward the wreckage. The emergency response was massive. 6 ambulances, specialist teams, and emergency doctors. The tsunami's wreckage stunned a country known more for its quiet parks than violent rides. Investigators later found that the gondolas had struck the ride's main structure during the turn. The park closed, the ride was dismantled, and a nation was left questioning the safety of its own backyard attractions. 9. The Wildcat Tragedy, 1997, Bell's Amusement Park, Oklahoma. It was supposed to be a fun afternoon in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but on April 20, 1997, the Wildcat roller coaster at Bell's Amusement Park malfunctioned in the worst possible way. One car came to an unexpected stop mid-ride, stalled on the tracks due to a faulty brake system. Moments later, a second car full of passengers slammed into it from behind, unable to slow down. The collision was devastating. A 13-year-old boy lost his life, and 6 others were injured. Investigators blamed the crash on poor maintenance. Alas, it was a tragic case of negligence costing a young life. 10. Fire in the Hole Tragedy, 1980, Silver Dollar City, Missouri. Silver Dollar City, nestled in the Ozark Mountains of Missouri, is known for its family-friendly charm and old-timey Americana. But on July 9, 1980, its signature ride, Fire in the Hole, became the site of a haunting tragedy. James Frederick Polly, just 23 years old, boarded what staff mistakenly believed was an empty train. Due to a miscommunication, the ride was diverted off its usual course onto a maintenance track, a route not meant for passengers. As the train rolled toward a storage area, workers frantically shouted for riders to duck beneath a low-hanging door. Tragically, Polly didn't react in time. He struck his head on the structure and died from his injuries. The cause was ruled human error. While Fire in the Hole reopened 2 days later, the incident remains the park's only fatal accident since opening in 1960, a somber shadow on an otherwise cheerful legacy. Theme parks promise us wonder. We step into their gates expecting laughter, thrills, and a break from reality into a world where danger is only an illusion, tightly bolted and carefully timed. But steel doesn't always obey. Tracks shift, brakes fail, bolts loosen, and in the span of a single scream, joy can twist into horror. The people in these stories weren't reckless. They were kids celebrating birthdays, friends chasing adrenaline, parents holding their children's hands. They trusted the rides, the rules, and the operators. But machines don't feel, and when they fail hard. These accidents are moments where lives changed in seconds, where an ordinary day became a nightmare. In remembering these tragedies, we don't just revisit fear. We pay respect to those caught in it and remind ourselves that even places built for escape are never completely safe. If these stories gripped you, subscribe, because behind every roller coaster drop, every twist in the tracks, there's always another story. We're here to tell it.